Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill and Naaman's Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have guests introduce themselves and have them tell us how long they've been doing SEO. Zara, would you please start?
Hi, my name's Zara Altair, and I'm a writer. And officially, I have never started doing SEO because I don't do technical SEO. I do incorporate SEO best practices in creating copy, but I don't call that doing SEO.
Okay, Steve.
Steve Gritzer with, what is it, Webinar World these days? Let's see, I've been doing SEO since before there were search engines. So back in the Gopher days, when you had to type in Gopher, and if you're old enough to know what that is, congratulations, you're still alive.
It's the 1990s, huh? Thomas.
Thomas Sickle, founder of Blueprint Marketing. I started doing SEO in 2009. So,
Terry?
Terry Van Horn. I've never been an SEO. I just dabbled. I've been dabbling for 25 years or more. Mostly I just did web development. That worked for SEO too.
And Doc.
Doc Sheldon, also with Web Narwhal. And I'm just coming up on 19 years doing this stuff.
And I'm Bill Slawski of SEO by the Sea and Director of SEO Research for Go Fish Digital. And I want to start us out with a public service announcement. I've had somebody, a family member, ask why we do Hangouts on air like this. And I think as SEOs, we need a chance to meet other SEOs who don't necessarily work at the same place we do, to exchange ideas, to talk, to use each other's experience, to learn from one another, to build relationships, to learn new things, to hear things that others might not have heard, to share it with them, and to learn things from them, learn about events and opportunities. It's why we go to meetups. It's why we use social media like Twitter. It's Hangouts on air are important. Webinars are important. We learn from them. And we get to see friends show up in comments. Hi, William. So, what do you all learn from SEO forums, from Hangouts, from places you go?
I'm going to bold all my text. Every word on the page is going to be bold.
You're not going to do it.
If
You're not
a
going to do
little
it
works, a
randomly.
lot's got to work more.
So John Mueller was a moderator back at Creative Site forums in the days before he joined Google. He never told his bold text there.
I can say,
But
I
if
think,
you look at very, very early SEO stuff on Google,
Yeah.
that's all it talks about is on-page stuff. And it's all about bolding, headings, lists, basically anything that makes your site more scannable by the user. It was a ranking helper on Google.
Yeah, Web Position Gold tried to get me to be an affiliate for page perfect or perfect page opportunities, which was all on page stuff. It ignored anchor text. It's like, you guys have never heard of links? You're an SEO company? I find that hard to believe.
No,
I think there's another aspect of that too, Bill. Like when we get together, the six of us that are here right now, almost every time we get together, I learn something from one of you, okay? But there's another aspect of it too. The reason that we do this is the viewers. I learned most of what I know about SEO in the forums. Back in the day, before Google was around, talking to other folks. That's where I met Steve, was in one of those forums. That's where I met Terry, was on that same forum.
Yeah.
And, I learned an awful lot. I can't pay back those people, so I pay it forward by sharing the little bit that I've learned over the years with others, because somewhere out there, there's some kid that decided 6 months ago, this sounds interesting, this sounds fun, I'm going to see what I can learn about this, and maybe he'll pick up something from listening to us talk.
I completely agree. I learned, I basically have, I think that, going to conferences, you get to meet a lot of people. As Bill knows, I got food sickness at the conference I was going to meet him at all the way in California, but almost there. But it's such a great experience to be able to actually share ideas with people that are in the same industry as yourself and facing the same challenges. We all have to deal with clients and the algorithm, basically Google, and so all of us take different approaches at certain things, and that's where I think the real synergy comes into play. Everyone has a little bit more insight or a little bit of different way of looking at things and doing things, and it makes for just an incredible amount of value for all of us, and hopefully the viewer as well.
I think the value of an exchange like this one particularly, is that there's no, that it's sharing information. It isn't like a presentation. Today, Doc Sheldon is going to talk to you about X. It's like people getting together and sharing their knowledge, with anybody who happens to be listening. And for me, especially, I think it's very vital for people who write for the web to understand what's going on and what is important, because that is going to connect the content that you write to the right people.
So I was busy at Creative Site Forums, and we had lots of people participating there, answering questions, asking questions. We helped lots of people with websites. We had the guy who started up the dating site, Plenty of Fish, show up with his site and bring it before us. And somebody said, "Why do you have a dolphin on your website? That looks stupid.
It's not even
Put
a
a school
fish.
of fish or something." He must have known what he was doing. He made lots of money and ended up selling that site for millions. I think to Match.com it was.
On the internet these days, selling a site for millions isn't a big deal. Billions is a big deal.
Billions, huh?
A billion's cool.
It's good
Yeah,
for
but
the guy. I'm not saying, I wouldn't take $1 million for a site I had that I'd be lining up for it. But in the whole big picture, it's not really a big deal, considering what for instance, what Zoom is worth. Like, that's a fucking joke. 200 and some odd billion in market cap for that fucking, basically it's probably 5 or 10 scripts on a server.
All in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
the
what
way it
it's
is.
all about.
That's what business is about.
That's, when someone says, like, there was a guy, Shoe Monkey, I won't say his real name, but we know who the Shoe Monkey is.
Oh, come on.
How could you not make money with the domain ringtone? I mean, really, when they came out, and yet people made a big deal of it. I used to laugh at the guy thinking he was a joke because he should have made more money off that domain. And then he showed everyone why, because he's an idiot.
But he still has more money than us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a wealthy idiot.
Were you willing to sell your soul on Twitter at $5 a shot? He was.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Hey,
it's like,
$5 is $5, right?
A tweet?
Yeah, that's selling your integrity by the pound.
many years ago, I was offered 10 grand for a website that we were publishing that reviewed video games. And we're like, absolutely not going to sell it. And then it turns out that it was Ziff Davis that was trying to buy us and roll us into them, and should have took the money.
Yeah, things change very quickly on the web. If anyone gets a very high offer, it's probably smart to take it, because You never know what the next thing is going to be that might remove the value entirely from the website or whatever has been created, if it's a decent valuation.
I remember when AOL bought what was it? Something
Prodigy?
Mechanic or something.
Didn't they buy Prodigy?
Net
This was
Mechanics?
before they even bought Prodigy. What was that?
Net
Website
Mechanics?
Mechanic. Yeah, that's it. They bought it for like millions and millions of dollars. And at the time, I was writing the scripts that did the exact same thing.
Hey, cut me in on this.
I just laughed and thought, oh, AOL, they're going to go bankrupt at some point. Pretty close.
It's funny how much you can build something that's similar to something else and still make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Facebook started out as a hot or not clone.
Yeah. Face Smash.
Yep.
That's what the name. It was very.
And Zuckerberg got almost expelled for it, and
Yep.
changed it around and
Well,
somehow ended up making lots of money from it. He's still getting sued over it, I
he
believe.
stole it. Yeah, the Winklevoss twins gave him the idea, and then he was like, "Eureka! I can code it," and paid him for it, from what I understand. To build it. So
Well, he was smart enough to say, you know what, if I don't take the money, they're screwed.
he did, from what I understand, take the money.
Well, he did end up giving them, I don't know, half a million
Hundreds
dollars.
of millions or something. Yeah.
Some stupid amount of money. But he basically stole their idea, yeah.
Yeah.
But they weren't smart enough to patent it, so all power to you, man.
In college, though, I wouldn't think to patent something if I was giving it to a friend to do.
In college, the college owns your work if it's on their server.
Not in the U.S.
Everywhere. How do you think Stanford ended up with a piece of Google? Because they did it while they were going to school there. They had to give the university a piece of the action.
When Brendan Page decided not to do their work, their PhD work, and instead build a search engine, their proctor, their supervisor, went on vacation to Japan in sabbatical, and he taught in Japan for a year. He came back and said, "Let me see what work you've done in your PhDs." They said,
I said none.
"We didn't do anything, but we get this thing called Google." He said,
Backrub.
"Let me see."
Yeah, how I know that is when I was going to school, I was building something and the teacher said, don't submit that to me because the
Really?
school will own it. Or at least part of it.
I know that's true if you work for a corporation. Like if anyone works for a company and they
When you're going to school, they basically look at it as they're telling you their secrets, right? Even though you're paying them, you owe them for doing that.
is this in Canada you were told this, or
It's everywhere.
It's in the United States too.
huh?
How do you think
There's-
universities get so rich?
Well,
It's not just from tuition and ripping off athletes.
There's a reason it's called Gatorade.
I think if you get help from their incubators or their network, then they start getting a piece of it.
Anything you do that's part of your classwork, they own it all if they want.
Oh, I have some terrible get rich quick schemes, which more like get infamous and get yourself on the paper for
Yeah,
bad things.
you
they
might
can have
want to
those,
check
but,
where
like-
you're getting your information on that.
No, they're not like they're terrible ideas that are terrible on purpose. But I don't think that if they want to own them, that's cool. But like I can't imagine a school actually telling you that because you came up with it in their library or whatever, or in their class, they inspired you to. I don't know. That's interesting to think about, but it could make sense for business.
Yeah.
It's not.
Why do you think they hire doctors, make them teachers, and then when they discover something, guess who owns it along with the teacher? The school that they were working for. It's a game. It's,
If they're
And
teachers,
you
yeah,
can
then
go to
they're
most university
employed.
websites like Stanford and look up their process on patents,
Hmm.
and they'll describe it in detail, where they get how they own property you come up with while you're a teacher or a student.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That used to be how they made their money before they started charging an arm and a leg for
Yeah, now
tuition.
Stanford charges, if you want to stay on campus for a married couple, is $180,000 a year for MBA.
That's just stupid.
Includes
Sorry.
Well,
food and books.
It's
there's a lot of things
not
down.
so much for doctors in the United States. If you have to go into debt, you know, $500,000 to get it, well, the payback's got to be fairly good, right?
Well, plus the
MBA
cost of doing business as a physician is
Yeah.
highly expensive.
Yeah, see here, I don't even think you can sue a doctor.
in Canada.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you even can. It
I
goes
had
through-
read that you can't. Yeah, I had
it
read.
goes through your little club. Oh no! Did any of you watch Dr. Death on FX?
Dr. Who?
Dr. Death. It was about a guy who was doing spinal work and he was killing people. It was a nightmare. It's still on if you want to check it out. It's on one of the networks.
A documentary?
It's one of those docudrama type deals.
Yeah.
They got Baldwin and Kilmer in it.
So he's a Canadian doctor?
No, it's an American. That couldn't happen in Canada. He was out of some of the big university. Baylor University was one of the places that he was using as a reference. Yeah, look it up. It's called Dr. Death. It was on FX Network, I believe. I watched it. It was really good. It was interesting.
That would be bad to get a Canadian doctor that was unsuable and was doing damage like that to people. But yeah, I do agree that most doctors have to deal with way too much insurance and worry about people getting sued. Basically, it's the biggest issue. One of their biggest issues that they deal with.
Oh no! If you're starting $500,000 in the hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means probably for a long time you're working for the university still to pay off the debt.
Oh yeah, student loans are one of the biggest things in the United States by far.
Well, I guess that's the Democrats wanted to wipe them out, and that was one of the things got removed from the bill that they passed, I believe.
Yeah, they did. They wanted not wipe them out
We
entirely.
can't have that. I
but
think
like-
they were going to do. Oh, it's here. They're thinking about doing free college.
I think if anyone can supply free college to people like at a very high level, that's amazing. I don't know how you could do it, but like I know that if you go to an Ivy League school or including Stanford, MIT, they'll give you if you make under I think it's $60,000 a year if your family does, then you get free tuition. But that's very few people. The rest of the schools, the government gives student loans, and then if you don't choose the right degree, you could be really in trouble paying that back.
What does choosing the right degree mean?
Just choosing, like, let's say you're a art history major and maybe you don't find a job in art history that pays as
So
much.
you go into SEO and you're in trouble with the school?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I think anything in tech is very
Yeah,
good.
there's a lot of history teachers that are SEOs.
I love history. I love SEO too, but I
They're
think
doing
that,
some kind of online work.
I think that like at the end of the day, there are it depends on if you're going to spend $50,000 a year more. It's your choice to do it. It's 100% your choice, but it's debt that will follow you. You can't get bankruptcy. Nothing like that will
I really feel like I missed the boat by not getting my doctorate in philosophy. You know.
Yeah, really. Be so useful, Doc. As you're flipping burgers, you people.
Like that meme says, you know, but when I got out of school, I thought none of the philosophy factories were hiring.
Yeah, all the videotape rental stores have got a business.
Yeah, no, philosophy and all the. I mean, don't get me wrong. Apparently there's a need for some philosophy majors, but I wouldn't imagine that it would be something that would be, you know, a very high salary outside of.
I had one of the people I was mentoring years ago. We had this exact discussion about, you know, she wanted to go into a field with the end goal of being a research professor. Great. Said, okay, well, let's work backwards. How many research professors are there in the universities in the United States that have this job? And she's like, I don't know. So we'll figure out that number. And then it's like, okay, then you've got this many at this many universities. How many new ones come into the field every year? And she goes, well, there's a limited number of spots, so you got to wait for one to retire or die.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And it's like, and we're doing the math, and it's like, so what you're telling me is maybe there's 4 or 5 of these positions that open up every single year. You have to be in the top 5 of your field to get that job when it comes open. What are you going to do until that happens? And she's like, oh. And she still went and got the degree later, but she wound up going through finance or something like that and became quite successful doing that. So, you know, a lot of people just need to pay more attention to where their path is going to end up, other than I want to be Indiana Jones. It's like, you know, archaeology is a really, really low-paid, crappy field to be in.
Yep. You got to dig a lot of holes before you find a bone.
I had a friend who did a lot of archaeology in the streets of New Jersey. Every time they were building new projects, they'd have to dig it up and do archaeology on the area.
Oh, yeah, because they dig something and, oh, there's a relic. Oh, no, we're screwed.
Right.
So I can make $40,000 a year cataloging these relics we just dug up, or you can hand me $40,000 under the table to pretend I didn't find it.
Yeah.
So he did that for
Look the
about 4
other
or 5
way.
years, and then he got a real job.
One of the most interesting things, and I shared it in private, I'll share it in public chat, is the value of an MBA is amazing. It seems like there's only 2 schools that the Wall Street Journal did looked into that you don't make the entire amount back in the first year that you put in.
I'm betting Wharton isn't one of them.
Wharton is at the top. It's one of the top, Stanford, Wharton, Dartmouth. You know, the usual suspects.
Well, but that's common with anything. I mean, my wife's bachelor's degree from Notre Dame means far more than her advanced degrees from everywhere else.
Sure.
Because when she says, I graduated with an engineering degree from the University of Notre Dame, that opens doors and it lets people know she knows her shit. Because Notre Dame does not just push people through their system.
Right.
You gotta be good. And, you know, even though she's got her master's and her PhD and all this other crap, none of that, nobody cares. That first one, that Notre Dame, means far more. And it's the same thing with any other university. Yeah, you can go to school and study something, but, you know, you're not going to go to West Texas Tech for engineering over Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Purdue, if you want to be an engineer, Purdue's a great school to go to. If you want to be a high-end engineer, you go to MIT. I mean, and those names have gotten to the point where they have value and cost real money.
So how much has SEO, how much has your college education helped your SEO process?
A huge amount.
Zip.
I mean, Well, it got me into chem, and then from chem, it made tech easier to understand, I think. But actually, yeah, I guess to be honest, like I didn't really. All the tech classes I took were really
So
basic stuff, not
for me,
helpful.
the thing that applies most to my SEO career going on was actually Domino's Pizza.
That's real life experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Business experience.
For almost 10 years, I spent my whole Domino's career going from nonprofit stores and figuring out how to make them profitable. And it becomes pure marketing, knowing your audience, knowing how to get to your audience, how to target your audience, and all of that applies directly to SEO.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Pizza's almost a direct response product.
yeah,
That's why they have so many TV commercials and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Before I got into online, when I was a business consultant, I got interviews a lot because of my MBA. But when I landed those jobs and I started working with the OGs that had been in the business for 25 years, my MBA meant squat
Yeah.
because they were a dime a dozen. Anybody whose daddy could afford to send them to college could get an MBA as far as they were concerned. And unless you learned it in the trenches, it didn't count.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of validity to that. You know, I mean, I learned a lot of theory, but theory and real life rarely meet.
I agree. I think that real world experience, there's no substitute for it. But a lot of companies and a lot of employers are looking for a certain school or a certain type of degree just to get you in the door, and then that's where you learn, everything that's really important. And it's a strange system, but I've seen it. I agree. I think that once there's no substitute for real world experience. If you can do well in the world, you can do school. What does it matter?
Well, one of the things
I think my education really helped me with site audits. I think in law school, briefing judicial opinions, breaking them down into 9 different bits,
right.
and parsing them out is very similar to going through a site and analyzing it, breaking it down.
yeah, well, the
What
semantics.
works and what doesn't work. My undergraduate degree in English, I had literary criticism classes that were similar. We were breaking stuff down that people created and analyzing it. I think that was very similar to analyzing a website. And
Well, I think that when you go through a patent, I know, what is the most important part of your education? If semantics doesn't enter into patent analysis, I don't know what does. Because you're trying to figure out what is not only what was being said, but what is enforceable and what is applicable and what could this possibly be interpreted as opposed to the obvious, So semantics is a key part of SEO.
Absolutely.
And my education really helped me with those things.
Sure.
Even though my education didn't involve any actual patents.
I think it's about, this is sounding like a buzzword, but it's about critical thinking and being able to discover relationships. It's like, when I went back to graduate school the second time in Pacific Basin Studies, political and economic analysis, and I was doing original research and government, I would call government entities and ask them where I could find the statistics for X, and they'd say, oh, it's right, on our website or whatever, and then it wouldn't be, and then they didn't know what to do with me because I was saying this is important information for looking at the big picture, and there's a piece of it that's just missing statistically. So when you're looking at a website performance, you're looking at all of that. And what I was saying before we came online this morning is that I don't care so much about how many clicks I get on a website. I care about what people are clicking.
Right.
Same kind of thing. It's like what I want to know that how does this help me form a decision about what else I'm going to add to the website, or
What do
where
people love and what do
concentrate
they?
my content on the website. You know, what are people actually using so far on this website, whatever that
Right.
website is.
Instead of spending hours on building something that no one's going to click on.
Again, a lot of that isn't even in Google Analytics.
No, right.
You can't even break down and get that information.
That is it. So it's the same kind of thing that I experienced, you know, when I was doing that research about herring trade. You know, it's like, wait, you're telling me this, but you don't have any statistics to back it up.
When I hit on a part of a patent on knowledge panels that talked about click-through rates,
Uh-huh.
and it said, we will analyze the authoritative site that we're showing the knowledge panel for. And if it's the site that has results in your query, and they're not getting as many clicks as they should, we'll consider adding clicks to knowledge panel that have query revisions leading to that authoritative site. So your knowledge panel can get you more links
From
because
Google.
from Google.
Yeah.
And it's based on click-throughs.
Okay. Click-throughs on the knowledge panel is what you're saying.
Yeah, you can get click-throughs on your knowledge panel because you're not getting as many click-throughs on your search results.
Okay.
Right. Knowledge panel click-throughs are a great way to get links. I mean, if you build it out large enough, it takes up enough screen space, the real estate.
Also, they probably analyze those as two different types of clicks. So if people were just clicking your knowledge panel, it would affect your ranking because they do click analysis on the organic results.
Yeah.
They would probably do that to smooth it out some for the knowledge panel. And that way you wouldn't, you would maintain where you were in the search.
So to go back to the public service announcement that I brought up earlier today, one of the things that we do by having Hangouts is learn new things. And often recently we have Webmaster T to thank for that because he sends out news.
Fantastic.
That's not true. No.
So he brings, it's mostly bad news.
Yeah, I only bring the bad news, never good news. I only bring bad news. But one of the things I read today that I thought was pretty interesting was the post about the algorithm penalty limbo could put you into limbo for several years.
I retweeted that, and somebody asked me, so Google does have a sandbox.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I said, no, that's not it.
But I started thinking about it and how that could happen. And I can't remember any algorithm updates to Penguin. And I worked on some Penguin 2 sites, and those things, they've never come out. Even new content wouldn't rank.
Yeah, that does happen where sites just have to be changed. I've seen a site be moved to a different domain. And,
I believe it's because they never updated Penguin. Once they stopped it, they said, okay, we just won't update it, and all these sites stay like this forever.
Well, like I've seen it firsthand be fixed where the content has been thinned out to get rid of the stuff that no one's clicking on, or isn't basically, after analyzing it, isn't very web friendly or user friendly, I should say, and then move it to a different domain. I didn't think that just moving domains would make that much of a difference, but it's been an incredible increase in traffic since.
If you fixed it,
yeah,
and it was quality to the design part of the website, that's fixable. But I found penguin is. Someone I see is affected by a penguin, and even what is it, 10 years later now since penguin ran, I just say no, I won't touch. I won't get a new domain and start over because this will never rank.
I mean, yeah, get a new domain, start over, start changing the content up, and changing everything that's wrong with the old site.
What really killed me was in the comments. There was guys saying, "Oh, I got hit by the medic 2018. Is that what happened to me?"
Sure.
That thing's been updated at least 4 times since then. Like, where do these questions come from, and who's asking them? Someone should show them to the nearest McDonald's and say, "Here, fill out an application."
This is how you hold a spatula.
Yeah,
Practice.
they probably need help with that.
Didn't we talk about this last week?
Oh, I'm starting to get annoyed by the questions. Or just bolding a whole sentence. How's that?
Yeah, that's so crazy.
It's not even bolding. It's technically the size of the font. It could be increased with CSS. Or...
There's at least 3 different ways they'll improve. It will help your SEO. You can do 3 things to a font. You can italicize it. You could use a different font family from the one that's the main one, and you can use color. So there's 3 ways you can do it, not counting bold.
Yeah. I like to use the clear.
Now everyone will be coloring things and putting them all bold and putting them in padding.
It's going to look like someone's MySpace page 10 years ago.
I have seen that where people put a bold inside of a heading.
We'll be revisiting Angel Fire. Watch out.
We should also have videos that just start cranking when you get on and hear their favorite song for the page. It's the MySpace playbook. The graffiti colors. Jeez. I mean, one thing I think that most people don't do with algorithm changes is a lot of content assessment or changes, and then the ability to, I mean, it takes a lot to move to a different domain depending on the size of the site, but actually, sadly, I don't think most people realize what's actually happening to their site. They just think they can't move the needle, and they don't understand why. And there's a lot of people out there that obviously can help them with some of these things. It's not going to be perfect every time, but every site can go up with traffic.
So some of the best site audit results I've received were when I told the owners of the site, it's not clear what you're telling people to do, how you're telling people they're going to send you money and get something in return isn't clear.
Yeah.
Explain it better. Explain how you rent a limousine, how you take it for a ride, how you have personal vacations using it, how you pay them at the end of it.
And the most important part,
give details.
The price, what you offer, what is the person going to get by buying this product or this service, and make it short, sweet, or very detailed if needed, but allow them detail if they need more.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that websites make, especially services where they won't tell you their rates.
There's no clear value statement.
Right.
If it doesn't have pricing, you assume it's
me,
astronomical.
You know what I figure? They got to be charging too much money, or it'd be right out there front and center. I move on.
I don't. It feels like a trick.
Yeah.
It feels like a trick, or it's like it, or they have a link to talk to one of our advisors, experts, blah blah blah.
Salespeople.
A lead salesperson, and these poor people are just. I think I talked about this a long time ago here, but I reviewed a whole bunch of software as a system services for an international IT magazine. Um, and I was just flabbergasted at how many of them didn't tell you what they did. You know, they said they made these fabulous claims about, we'll bring you more this, or, we'll streamline your bookkeeping and accounting, but whoa, could I
Never
find out
really
what they
explain how
did
they
and
do
how
it.
it did, or what the dashboard looked like, or, just give me a hint? No, there was none of that. It was always, get in touch with one of our sales professionals. And then the other part was they wanted name, rank, serial number, firstborn, and to sign up for this conversation,
Yeah.
informational conversation.
Yeah,
And
sign
it
up
was all
so we
data
can call you.
gathering, and it was like, screw you until you give us money. And I just thought it was such a horrible
And
approach.
the salesperson
Well,
is the
and
one
to go a
dictating the
step
price.
sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
The salesperson is also making money based on how much they can charge you. If it's
Yeah,
a
and I
black
felt
box,
sorry for the salespeople because because a majority of the people they're going to be talking to won't even know what they're talking about because the site isn't giving them enough information to ask intelligent questions.
Well, to take that a step further, the ones that drive me up the tree too is when you see something that you think might be interesting, maybe it's a tool or a plugin or whatever, and they talk about all these wondrous things, and they want you, like you say, name, rank, serial number, and firstborn, just to find out because the price isn't there anymore. You got to give them all this
Yes,
information before you can find out is this a $19 special or a $4.99 a month special,
correct. It's
And I just like, and I have left them some nasty remarks more than once. Say, get your head out of your collective ass and figure out that nobody's going to give you their goddamn information without having a clue what price range at least the thing is in.
exactly.
We went.
And I actually got a response from one guy. One guy actually sent me an email back, very nice and very open-minded. Said, that's a very valid point. You're right. We're going to rework. I don't know if he ever did because I'd lost interest and found a different solution.
Right.
But
So Doc and I
but
went through that.
it's more than a valid point, Doc. It's a major concern.
yeah.
And that's what is so incomprehensible to me is how could you miss this major point in connecting with prospective customers?
Where did we go, Steve?
Oh, when we were looking for a platform to run the Deep SEO conference on, we had a nice sales chat with somebody, and they're like, well, we're looking at around $17,000. And we're like, yeah, we're having the wrong conversation here.
Yeah.
Not a conversation I'm party to.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, we appreciate your time, but I think it's time for us to go.
Yeah, I don't want to waste any more of your time. That's usually the good one to get rid of this. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I can't afford it.
Yeah, if you take a zero off of that, we'd still be wasting each other's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind coming out of pocket for the conference, but that was a little much.
yeah, no, and I agree. When you get to enterprise level software or anything that they're selling, it would be a lot better if they showed more images, give you a lot more information that's beyond just the Zoom call you're going to have with that salesperson. It would, I think they assume that they're going to get a lot of B2B customers that just know what they want. And
I've got one client that he wanted to set up an educational website, but we didn't want to actually build the site out ourselves. He didn't want to be a tech company. And we went through 4 or 5 Zoom calls of up to an hour each before they would finally give us a price.
Jeez.
And it's like, I get it. You're trying to show us how great your stuff is. Don't care. How much per seat is this going to cost me? Well,
Right.
this and well that, every site's different. No, it's not. You know what your average seat cost is. What is
Yeah.
that number?
If
Tell
you
me
don't,
that
you
number.
probably shouldn't be in the business.
And that was why the client had me on the call, because that was the kind of stuff I would say to them. They're like, well, it's like, no, if you don't have this number, then obviously you're not worth working with because you don't get it.
Yeah.
Give me the number.
You don't even understand your own business to the point where you can tell me what it would cost me. So, sorry.
When they finally did present their quote or estimate, I think they wanted an upfront payment of like $280,000
For the quote.
upfront. It's like, wow. You are
Like for a
very
number
proud of
like
yourself.
that, why even waste everybody's time by not bringing that forward right away? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're talking $250,000 here or more. You in? That would have been my
Are
first
you in?
one.
Are you in?
Yes, but we just wanted to show you all the value before we talk about numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when I started working with Dave, he asked me one time, how come you try and figure out where they're making their money? And I said, stupid, so they can pay me.
Yep.
So you can help them
And that's
as
a
well.
conversation I have
Oh,
with
it
every
helped
client.
them as well, but it was more about in a long-term relationship, I wanted to make sure that they could keep paying me.
Yeah.
My goal is to make them enough money that they want to pay me in yachts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the return on investment is the most valuable thing you can give a client in 99.9% of cases, unless they ask you for something else. It's just what you need to focus on and where they're getting their conversions and other places that they can make money. I think there's one thing I really love as an SEO is being able to work with businesses and the people who run them and actually help figure out other issues that they have to solve within the business that are
Most
always
people
related to the
in
site.
an online business don't have a clue what a customer is worth to them.
Nope.
They don't know when they're actually breaking even. But if you ask those questions of a lot of the guys who have people coming through the door, they know.
Sure.
They know. They don't know the exact amount, but they know how much they're making or losing based on the traffic coming through the door.
Well, and online too, Terry, I find that an awful lot of them, like you say, they have no idea what the value of each customer is. And if you explain to them how important it is and what they use they can get out of it, they have no clue how to even calculate it. They don't even know what to include in that. Rent, utilities, and insurance, those are easy concepts to grasp. But marketing apparently just goes right over their head. They have no idea how to work all those costs into the cost of acquisition for a customer.
That's one thing that helped me in school. Statistics helped me with SEO a lot, and I think that people today, a lot of people just don't understand statistics and how critical they are and how easily they can actually be implemented. Like Power
But that's
BI,
probably one of the
calculator.
most important things.
Yeah.
Another question I always ask them, what do you make the most money on? What do you make the least money on? What do you make by selling more of it? Those are very important questions, but very few SEOs even ask those kind of questions.
And if you really want some entertainment value, ask them, who is your customer?
Who do you sell to?
You get some really psychedelic answers on that. Everybody.
It's most common.
Everybody, oh my gosh.
Well, nobody. That's why I called you.
Yeah, there you go.
I once got a 280-page long book listing 17 different persona types. And they were appropriate for print, for TV, for radio, but they weren't the right answer for cable. They weren't the right answer for internet.
And yet the internet's probably the easiest to quantify.
And I could have used 4 sentences to explain who the customers were for internet. I didn't
Yeah.
need 280 pages of a book,
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Which,
and I
That
didn't own.
persona
I didn't.
marketing was a pretty big deal for
I was in a Fortune 40 company. I didn't own the company. The CEO may have had lots of money, but I don't think he spent much time counting it.
some of the companies. They only make money by mistake. They aren't out trying to make money. It just happens.
Well, then you get the other side of the coin. I've had clients where they were trying to get a business ready for a sale. The ROI is the last thing on the plate. They're not interested in making money. They're interested in what kind of a picture they can paint, you know?
but EBIT DOS, BA is the way you value a business, though. No, like earnings minus taxes and
Not always.
no.
Depends on who you're selling to.
Yeah, I guess there's
Well, I
different
work with
reasons.
people who are far more interested in just grabbing market share than profit.
Yep.
Because grabbing more market share meant that it didn't go to their competitor. And
Exactly.
The
They
end
were-
goal was not to be profitable, but it was to make it so that the competitor couldn't stay around. And
Destroy
then
the
they would worry about being
competition.
profitable.
Yeah. Build it, they
Sounds
will
like
come,
a
you
lot
know?
of smart businesses out there.
That makes sense. I mean, in all fairness, it seems like that's a very common thing today, or always in business. You know, is competition takeout. If you can remove the competition, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong or anything like that, but it's definitely something that I agree with 100% of what you're saying right there.
And going back to what was being said earlier about, you know, customer cost of acquisition and things like that, especially with like e-commerce, the other side of that coin where a lot of people are losing their money is on just on the fulfillment side, where they're not paying attention to everything else, where they're going, okay, well, I've got my stamps.com integration and it says, you know, shipping is going to run me $14 and I'm charging $15. It's like, okay, you're losing money. And what do you mean? It's like, well, what's the cost of the box? What's the cost of all the wrapping? What's the cost of the person standing there putting it in the box?
The rack that the boxes are kept on, the forklift that unloads the boxes from the truck, you know,
Yeah.
they don't understand these things, you know.
No.
G&A and overhead are actually over the head of a lot of managers these days. They don't understand the difference between G&A and overhead.
Yeah.
And they usually fail to roll one of them into their cost of their product and their service.
And then can't figure out why they're not profitable.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often with offline businesses. They're very cognizant of
Yeah.
the fixed cost.
Yeah.
Well, how many people, Terry, that are running an online quote-unquote business have a clue about how to run a business? You know,
Well, that's
damn few.
part of the problem too.
And that's not just your little mommy blogs, you know. I mean, that's, you know, the crocheting and Etsy businesses. I'm talking about some companies that have hundreds or even thousands of employees are not running it like a business online.
Right.
They might, if they have a brick and mortar, they're probably running that like a business, but their online business is like an afterthought.
If you ever had the chance to work at a fulfillment center for like an Amazon.com, you should take it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Been there.
It doesn't pay enough.
But
I
it
wouldn't
shows
get
you
on
it
the
shows
fan
you
for
that some
free.
people think about what they're doing when it comes
Yeah.
to work.
Oh yeah.
I managed a small shipping department for a factory for a few years, and the amount of effort that goes into making sure the right product gets to the right customer at the right time is phenomenal. And it's amazing how many businesses don't understand that. That in itself is a whole process.
And you watch things like quality analysis in action.
Yeah.
Making sure that the right stuff goes to the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you start falling back on things like pay. One of the factories we worked with, they had increased the pay to machine operators to the point where their machine operators were doing the initial quality control as stuff came off the machine. And they had full authority to shut down the machine if something started to go out of tolerance. They didn't just keep cranking out parts and make it somebody else's problem. And, it got to the point where, their bad piece rate was so low, it wasn't even worth mentioning. And clients loved it, and they were willing to pay a little more for that.
Yeah.
Until you got to a point where international shipping got so cheap that you just couldn't compete.
Going back to your opening remarks, Bill,
Yeah.
this kind of discussion is a real good reason that we do these hangouts.
Yep.
Well said. Yeah.
You don't read about this kind of crap on Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal.
Yeah, well, how many places have over 100 years of experience sitting in the room discussing it? Not
Yep.
many.
Yep.
Well, it would be nice, this hopefully if people who do see the videos take a piece of this information to a client later and go, hey, maybe this is why we're having problems.
Yeah.
Let's look
exactly.
at other processes and see if we can't get those fixed first before worrying about driving another 100,000 people to the website next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Well,
can
yeah, that's a kicker too. I had a client about 3-4 years ago that, like you were talking about, Steve, they didn't understand the cost, so they were actually losing business on each, or losing money on each sale, and it was shipping and handling was their biggest problem because they had so much damage in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Because they were paying $6 an hour to some forklift driver who didn't understand the cost of the products. He didn't care. If it fell off the pallet, he just threw another one up on the pallet and loaded on the truck.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So they found out they were losing like $3 per product on a $20 product.
Oh.
And had that, and the joke came up in the meeting. Well, we'll make it up in volume. If you're losing $3 per sale, more sales does not solve the problem.
Yeah. He pounds the.
And the CEO is sitting there, and he got this look on his face like, I'm surrounded by cretins.
Who hired these idiots?
His operations manager understood it, but his sales manager, his marketing manager, the vice president of operations, it went totally over their head.
Oh man.
They're just looking at their own numbers, which were to hit a certain.
Exactly. It was all so compartmentalized.
That's one of the biggest problems I see in companies is that one company has a quota to do X, one part of a company has a quota to do X. They aren't encouraged to work with the other. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and they're working against each other. And sometimes they're competing with each other, and it's not healthy competition, meaning that it's not going to actually result in benefit for the company. And that's something I've seen a lot of, unfortunately.
Yeah. Not uncommon.
I know when I was doing more business consulting, I almost always place the blame on upper management managers, because if the people you have working for you aren't doing the right job, it's because you didn't teach them how to do it the right way, or you didn't give them the tools to do it the right way. It's not their fault that the product they're creating or the service they're creating sucks. It's your fault for not giving them the tools they needed to do it. And that applies to everything, including SEO.
Yep.
And, if your SEO sucks, it's very unlikely that it's because you suck. It's because your training sucked. The tools you use suck. The guys you got information from on the Warrior Forum suck.
So something came up on Twitter the other day. Somebody was talking about companies that do hiring for SEOs based on whether or not SEOs have SEO certificates, and Nike was one of them.
Oh Jesus!
From where?
And I went to Nike.com website and looked for the word sneaker on the homepage.
Not there.
It doesn't show up once.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Nike ranks number 6 for sneaker and number 2 for sneakers, without it being on the homepage.
Yeah.
If they put sneaker at least once on the homepage, they'd be a lot better off.
You're
There's
right.
no certificate you can buy for SEO that will tell you that.
So we were
What
looking at
certificate are they
doing an
looking for?
SEO certification process, what, 7 or 8 years ago, Terry?
Oh, more than that.
And the whole issue was, from my perspective, was you can't offer a legitimate certification without knowing the rules, and the only people who can do that are the search engines. The other side of that coin was we could do a $99 certification that's absolutely worthless, but sell them all day long with just a simple 100-question quiz you take online, and you get a PDF that you could print that says here's your SEO certification. And the better part of me decided not to go off that way.
There are certifications now that I think are legitimate. OMCP is legitimate because they actually review the speakers and the curriculum that's being taught to make sure that it's current and up to date and by reputable people. So Market Motive is another example of a certificate that you can say, okay, if he's got this certificate,
right,
he was at least taught by people that know what the hell they're doing.
But there's some clowns who have crap courses who give you tests and give you certificates that you passed the test.
That's
why it doesn't mean a damn thing.
And even if it was worth a damn, the moment they give it to you, 2 weeks down the road, it's no longer valid.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
90% of what I learned 25 years ago is still relevant today.
Yeah, but 10% isn't.
Right. But I think that's the same in every industry.
But what 10% is important today is the point. So you give somebody a certificate, they may be top of their class the day of issue, assuming that the stuff that was taught all the way through that course is relevant and up to date, but 6 months down the road, something new has come out. And they're totally unaware of it.
Okay, but that would be true of the person who didn't take the certificate course too. If they didn't do any, follow-up research, they're in the exact same position.
But the certificate is no longer valid, is my point, Terry.
If 90% of it is valid, how does that make the whole thing invalid? That makes
for instance, I've got an MBA from Canterbury from 1992. Okay, that for the most part, the internet didn't exist yet. What value is my MBA for helping a business run an online business? Okay, there's a lot of it that still comes into play. Certainly, business is business, but there's an awful lot of it that didn't exist then. I wasn't taught. I had no reason to learn. So, my point is that as things evolve, certificates they're going to diminish in value, okay, over time.
But having that certificate shows at that time you at least knew 90% of what was going on.
But if he's class of 56, that time doesn't mean a lot to me in 2021.
Well, I'm just saying, it's also not just a certificate. It depends how they got the certificate.
Well, yeah, I'll go with that. I'll agree with that 100%.
That's a big part of it too.
I'll say one thing. I have a certificate from Distilled U, which at the time was cutting edge. Hasn't been updated in 8 years. But I thought it was a great intro type thing. But answering questions on Moz, even though I'm not a big fan myself of Moz, to people and then getting them to actually rank how much you've helped them, I think that's one of the things that actually matters. And I'm proud of being in the top of that. But those are things that actually can show a scale of if you're actually helping people and they're saying, okay, your answer helped me with whatever my problem is. There's a way of actually tracking that. That's a great way of it's like a certificate in a way, I guess.
Oh, so if you answer 100 questions, does bolding help? Like, does bolding help SEO? And they were all thumbs up. What does that say? You don't know.
I mean, I guess that if you can find 100 questions in a row like that.
Look, I can't say anything positive about Moz. Sorry.
It's
Just
not. It's
Oh,
not
come on, Terry. You're not trying.
It's not the company. It's people. It's people that are going on the forum to ask questions. So
I've been around 68 years. I know bullshit when I see it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're a great company. I'm saying that they have a forum that people can ask questions on, and they will ask questions about search engine optimization, and you can answer it.
Whatever.
Okay.
I have seen some good discussions over on their forum. There's some people in there that spend a lot of time to try to correct misinterpretation of things, and it's like any organization or any community. You got some idiots, and you're going to have some dedicated folks that really try.
Yep.
Pete's a great example over there. I
Yeah.
mean, his stuff is always worth reading. Period.
Who?
And,
Pete?
yeah, Pete.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dr.
Just
Pete.
because he's associated with Moz doesn't make him unworthy.
Oh, no.
Same thing
He's
with
a sharp
Cyrus.
cookie.
Cyrus, Dr. Pete, both of them, I think, are very bright guys. Really helpful in a lot of ways.
And there's a whole double handful of folks like that over there who spend an awful lot of time trying to educate and re-educate, and in some instances uneducate, but because they got to try to unlearn, get people to unlearn some bullshit that they read on Warrior Forum, but or on the previous thread there, but it's it's like I said, it's just like politics. There's some good ones and some bad ones. You just got to look a little harder to find the good ones.
What do you guys think of Google's forum overall, their webmaster forum?
I can't. I tried multiple times, and I just can't.
Made your head hurt.
Well, and it's not even that. It's the gatekeeping that goes on by the people who established themselves there.
Yeah.
Especially like what used to bother me, Steve, is I go over there and see them talking about virtual offices and office space, and they didn't have really a clue what each product was. They thought co-working was a virtual office. They thought that, office space that was shared was co-working. Like they didn't have a clue of what was really out there.
Right. No, and they get very aggressive about the Google guidelines. If you start offering suggestions that vary from those even a little bit, it's just not worth the hassle.
Yeah.
Well, from what I've seen, the Google review process is a joke. I mean, we put right on a review, this person has never been to the website. We have not received any email. We have received nothing. As far as we know, they're not a client. They give us a rating of 1 and no explanation or nothing. And when we ask that, we can't, they're not a customer, Google still allowed the review to stay.
Yeah, that's definitely wrong. I mean, Google's review system needs a big update. It needs people behind it to actually be supportive and actually look at the obvious.
Well, then I realized that I read this morning that if Google sees all positive and no negative, they think that's bad too. They can't trust that, which is just utter horseshit. Like,
yeah,
it shows a degree of incompetence and stupidity. Like, you spent your whole life in your mother's basement, for Christ's sake. For most of your
I
life,
think the
when you
hardest
weren't in
concept to
university.
deal with is using conditional verbs when it comes to Google. Whenever you're like Google should, it's not going. It doesn't matter what we think.
There was a Google white paper on ratings, where they talked about bias in ratings. Like if a certain source had mostly 5 stars and very few 1-star, 2-star results, they said, okay, it's quite likely that these results are biased. If
What if you just got a good product and everybody only has good things
There
to
you
say
go.
about it? Like, that makes no sense to me.
sometimes there is a problem with the source.
Hmm.
Well, hey, I'm not saying that there aren't people that cheat, right? And the reviews aren't real, right? But if they're, and the other thing is, a lot of people will not talk badly about a product, but they'll say good things about it, and the reverse. Some people will only write a bad review; they won't write a good one.
Yeah, if you look at their history of writing reviews, and it's all just like, this is the worst ever.
But the worst one is, I would see Google guides, right? That I could tell they lived in India, they came here for 6 months. Their first review in Canada, guess where it was? The train station. And I could not get that one removed either.
I like the review where you look at somebody's review profile, and they're predominantly reviewing stuff in Europe, and then they get the random 1 or 2 shot in the United States, and it's like, I'm not gonna buy that you traveled here and went to this little podunk restaurant in the middle of nowhere and left it a 1-star review or a 5-star review. Something about this doesn't feel right.
Can you say VPN, boys and girls?
I have a friend who's an attorney, and this is no joke. He wouldn't represent a guy because he wanted to sue squirrels. And as a result, he got a 1-star review on Google. And, when he tried to bring it up with Google that this is like a crazy person, Google said, sorry, it didn't say anything, I don't think, to him, actually.
No.
But that type of thing where like the guy is actually talking about bringing legal action against a squirrel in the review should be taken into account.
Yeah, but see now, but that attorney could have very easily made some real hay out of an asshole review like that. He could have turned that to his advantage.
So somebody's marketing manager missed an opportunity.
Well, that's
Yes,
the thing, though.
for
He was
sure.
worried about client confidentiality. So, like,
But was he ever a client?
yes,
Yeah.
because he thought it was suing. He thought they were suing a.
Okay, you'll never get a review pulled where the guy was actually a customer. You'll
Nope.
never get that review.
Nope, and probably shouldn't.
And probably shouldn't. That's true.
In some cases, I think like that one.
No,
maybe.
there are specific rules for those. And one of them is they have to have actually used the product. And that's the main one that you can get a review removed for. But saying, oh, that isn't true, they don't care to hear that. They just care that that's that person's opinion, and they don't care. If he was an actual customer, they want it there.
Right, I understand, but like if you hire a human to sue squirrels, and that person fails at it because they can't do it, like squirrels just don't have enough money these days, and what can you do? Like,
Well, that's where a simple reply to the review is like, okay, you wanted to sue squirrels.
oh yeah, no, that was done. But
Have you ever tried to depose a squirrel? How can you pick out one squirrel from another?
the guy actually
Even
had a
just trying to serve the little bastards has got to be a challenge,
This is honest to God true. The things in TV shows for detectives where they have the pins and the thread going to like the suspect. They had that with squirrels. No joke. Head squirrel.
I think we all know who is really squirrely in this little scenario.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of it's a nutty
I'd
business.
say the guy who made the review was a little squirrely.
Yeah. It's one of that I think was his first review ever. But excellent attorney, but just can't do well against animals, unfortunately. Got a terrible but yeah.
We're past the top of the hour by a little bit, aren't we?
A little bit.
Oh yeah.
I think we're done for today. Thank you all. It's been
Thank
fun.
you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Go make
Take
lots
care
of
now.
money, as Webmaster T would say.
Take care, everyone. Bye now.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.